Another man done gone.
You've heard of the latch string? This is literally the latch string because I pull this, hear it? It unlocks the door on the other side. So come on into the great room. Well, before you go, look at these beams. Don't take a picture of our modern smoke detector. But look, this is a perfect spot to see the construction of this house. Look in the corners where it's notched and that big beam sits in on it, and see that wooden peg in there? They didn't have nails way back then, not that big. So that's held.
Mortise dowel.
That mortise and look at this. You can see where the bark was. Now, having seen this, let me just tell you what this is. This is a modern test. Dendrochronology. Ever heard of the word?
No.
It is the science of determining age of beams by boring into them, and when the bore comes out, they count the number of circles.
Sure.
And that's how they actually confirmed most of the timber, not all, in this house dates to about 1649 or before. Some are a little later, so, you know, I don't know why they put in later ones. Now, one more thing while I'm looking at it. Both this door and that door, you'll notice, have a nice sweep at the top. That's because John Budd, who, as I said, owned a fleet of ships, evidently wanted to feel at one time or another he was on one of his ships. This is really very nautical, this curve on the door and, of course, the casing above it. But that's very rare. And I can't help but point out these absolutely handsome hinges. Look at this. Look at that snake, excuse me, that rat tail. That's what they call it. And these are all signs of great wealth.
And you know what? I would say that this would pretty much determine this gentleman wasn't a tailor.
Yeah, oh, well, I've never heard that he was a tailor.
Oh, well, I've got a story for you.
Well, I've never heard that. I always heard he was a shipbuilder.
There's a huge argument about it, and it has to do with Catherine Brown.
Oh, she causes all sorts of trouble.
Yes, she does.
Now,
This fancy.
this is the great room, which was also in many of these big buildings, also in the corner here, and I'm having an argument with some of our people, and I've seen other houses of this vintage. There's one in New London that has a big cupboard bed in this corner. But I can't, because we've got two big bedrooms upstairs, I can't believe that the Budds, who were wealthy, would sleep in their living room. And for you guys, this is what we call the living room. We give it a fancy name of the great room. But one of the things that makes it great is this timber. And as our friend Mr. Budd pointed out not too long ago, the trees this size were reserved for building ships for the Royal Navy, especially the masts.
Specifically ship masts,
So
yes.
you couldn't go out in the forest and just cut down a great big ship, a great big tree, and make a beam like this out of it. This was a sign of John Welt's wealth and power. And we call it, we Americans, and it's a bastardization, we call it a summer beam. And many people said, well, what's relation to the winter or the fall? Well, that's where it's wrong. It's actually the summa, S-U-S-M-A, from Latin. You haven't taken Latin yet, have you? That means the biggest, the greatest, and that's what this is. This is the biggest piece of, yes?
Highest.
This is the
Summit.
biggest
Summit.
piece of wood in this building. Now, those others are big, but this is called the summa beam. And as I pointed out to these gentlemen before, this house was restored in 1940, and then we kind of had to restore it, about 10 years ago, because after all those years there was a lot of rain had gotten in, and you can see we had to replace the bottom. But we also replaced the windows. But when we go upstairs, I will show you the original window, which when they restored this building in 1940, they found in the wall upstairs. And I point these are called cams or cames, the leaded glass. These were made in England this time too. We imported these. Look at this little handle to lock the window. But kids, you see this little curve here? That's called a rat tail. I've never seen a rat. Well, I guess I've seen a rat, but not up close to see his tail. But that's called a rat tail. And back then, you had to be rich to have one glass windows. Usually they were closer to what we call today wax paper. Are you familiar with wax paper that you might wrap a sandwich or something in? But because Mr. Budd had so much money, he was able to import glass for his windows.
Another man done gone. Another man done gone. Gone from the county farm. Another man done gone. I did